So I'm really honored to be able to be invited for your meeting here, especially just let me briefly bring some memories about Roger Scruton. I had a pleasure, of course, I read a lot of his books, but I had a pleasure to participate in his lecture, which he delivered in Krakow, and it was shocked for me because it was the first time once I heard him talking about the modern architecture, how it turned back from the God, and it was a very nice path through the history of architecture. So it was absolutely fantastic, and it was my first experience when I was able to meet him. It was, I think, last years of 20th century, and then I received his poem book in Poland, just with the signature of him, and it came to my house in Warsaw 2 days after his death. So well, so this is something. When I had the invitation from you, it was natural and obvious for me that I have to take part in this discussion. So this is just a brief introduction. So my impressions, my experience, based on my experience, last year experience, and what we are doing in Poland right now, and my quite inside observation.
Welcome to the Roger Scruton Center's event, Recovery in a Post-COVID World, Europe, Poland, and Beyond. My name is Lili Naomi Zantini, and I'm a student at UCL. Jozef Kosc is a tutor in politics at St. Peter's College at Oxford University. He is a senior research fellow at the Atlantic Council of the UK, a research analyst at the NATO Association of Canada, and he is also the senior fellow of the Pinsker Center. And tonight he will be in conversation with JADWIGA EMILEWICZ. JADWIGA is a Polish politician and political scientist. In 2020, she served as the Deputy Prime Minister of Poland. Between 2019 and 2020, she served as a Minister of Development, and between 2018 and 2019, she served as a Minister of Entrepreneurship and Technology. Before moving on to the event, I would like to thank our partners, the Polish Embassy in London and the UCL Diplomacy Society. As you might already know, the legacy of Roger Scruton continues through the work of his family at Scrutopia, which hosts a summer school at Scruton's beautiful manor farm. After this event, we will be sending out to you more information about Scrutopia. If you have any questions during the event, please enter your question into the Q&A box. Add your name and your university to your question so we know whose question we are answering to. Thank you so much for your attention. And now back to you, Jozef.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Lily, and thanks so much, JADWIGA, for joining us this evening. As Charlie mentioned earlier, it would be great to have first from you, JADWIGA, a general introductory statement, sort of a high-level overview of what the post-COVID economy in Poland and across Europe in particular might look like. And after that, I'll take the moderator's privilege to ask a few questions of my own. Subsequently, we'll open up the floor to questions from our participants. So thanks everyone again for joining us this evening, and without further ado, we'll start. JADWIGA, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much once again. So let me briefly bring some comments on when, in my opinion, we are today facing with the COVID crisis and what I presume might happen in the coming months and coming years. It might be true not only for Poland, of course, but I would try to show you and to present that Poland is in a slightly different situation than every single Western European member state country. So, well, if we are really willing to discuss about strategy of recovery, the basic thing is to proper estimate the status quo, right? Where we are today, and so definitely what we need to have is a proper diagnosis of the situation, and the best idea to do that is to ask the proper questions. So the first point, the first question which I am asking myself and my politician colleagues in Poland is what was wrong, right? What was wrong in the last year at the very beginning of the crisis and the next steps? which part of the state, of the economy and the society occurred to be the weakest piece in the chain. The second question, which I'm asking myself, is in which part of the state functioning pandemia cause unturnable causes, right? Which of them are not going to be turned back anymore? The third point is how during the pandemia has developed the society expectations from the state, because it occurred to be completely different at the very beginning of the 2020 and in the middle and at the end, and even today. It is the evolution of the expectations, social expectations, and the business world expectations towards the states are really very, very interesting. And the last but not least is, of course, how did we change, and how did we change in the last year as the society? Because it is also very, very important. Today I've read, and probably you are also aware, which expenditures are going to be the biggest one, and probably the psychological treatment of the young people and also those who are going to come back to the normal labor market might be the biggest one, not only in Poland. So this is a general. And I think I would like to bring you and to share with you some pictures and some data around which I would like to have our discussion should focus on. So let me share the screen with you. Just a second, please. Mm-hmm. Since I've got a message that host disabled participant screen sharing, could you please, if it is not possible, then I will describe what all.
I'm not quite sure, Jadwiga, if you bear with me 2 seconds.
Okay. Just that there are just few pictures of data, and I think
now, Jadwiga.
Pardon?
You should be able to share.
Okay, it is now. It's okay. Thank you.
Yes. Sorry. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry for this is a mixture of Polish and the English sometimes, so but everything is clear, I think. Monthly excess mortality. So mortality rate is definitely something that is in a key of discussion today in Poland. Although we are telling some good words about the process of vaccination. We are having today the same number of people being vaccinated as in 2 times bigger Germany, and the whole process is fluent. Nobody is complaining. We are complaining only about the number of digitalized. The full process is highly digitalized, and it's going really good. But anyway, this mortality rate, which are caused not by COVID, because it is basically the basic thing the government has been blamed for is that since we blocked normal hospitals to be able to accept as many people as it is only people infected by COVID, then the normal procedures, planned procedures like cancer, everything else, normal operation, was cancelled last year, and that is why this is the main reason why the mortality rate grow so much. As you see, we are above the European average. Only today, only Portugal and Czech Republic are with the higher numbers than Poland. So this is something that the policymakers should absolutely take into account. Sorry, next one. And it is once again mortality. This is mortality rate about those which are above the 2019, 2018, right? So we are having those which the rate is higher than it used to be in the last 10 years. So the red lines you see, the European Union is 15.1, Poland 23.5. So this is, as I mentioned 3 minutes before, this index is counting many times by the opposition, but also by the society. That probably state did not everything what the state, the politicians of course, did not everything what we could do, what we should do to provide people with the proper medical care. Then the next number, next figure, because we are going to talk about the recovery, so what is going after COVID, those dates are also important, because if we are talking about the recovery of the economy, it is very important to see who is going to come back to the market. And you see, the more orange color is, the more older society we have. From this perspective, Poland looks quite good, still quite good, although we should keep in mind those dates which I presented just a second before. It does not look very optimistic. Of course, we know that demography is probably one of the highest crises that Europe is going to face with in the next 3 decades. But still, of course, we have to keep it in mind once we are thinking about the COVID, and COVID caused the unexpected mortality rate. And well, this is you see those 2 lines, live births and deaths, and you see how it works from the beginning of 90s, and the process, general process, is not extremely optimistic. It's a very pessimistic from the beginning of 90s. But of course, what has happened in 2019, 2020, as you see, so the number of deaths comparing to number of live births is also very pessimistic. So we see that the population of Poland has diminished last year by it has diminished last year by 30,000 people. So that means that it is 0.3% more than it used to be in last year. So this is a really important social issue. And now this is the map which provides us some details about the human loss and economic loss in the EU countries in 2020. So you see that the most optimistic square is those where we have a low economic loss and low human loss. So this is down the left part of the scheme. And we see the Germany, Sweden, Luxembourg, but also the Baltic countries like Latvia, Estonia, and Denmark or Finland as those who are having the lowest economic and the lowest human loss. Where we are, so I mean where Poland is, we are in the right part, right lower. That means that we are really very tiny, narrow economic loss. We see it in many different indicators like unemployment rate, GDP drop, which are one of the lowest in the European Union. So the unemployment rate after closing 2020 is the lowest one in Europe. GDP dive is the third, as far as I remember, is the third, but the first big country. So the economy is doing quite well, but of course this high human loss is not making me as a politician, being responsible, of course, for the economy last year, not very optimistic. And this one is the map which provide us with the percent of GDP which countries dedicated to combat with COVID. So to spend on not only on the vaccination, but this map is providing us the details about the scope of support for the economy that has been delivered to the businesses in those separate countries. From this perspective, Poland looks like one of those who, with the comparison to the GDP, of course, to deliver the biggest amount of money to the real economy. And what is even more important, that we were one of the first countries in which both simply, let's say, quite smart money were delivered to maintain the labor places, so the labor market, but also to help medium and the small businesses, but also to the big one, to maintain their performance and to stay them and to keep them on the market. And what we see, and it brings the good fruits, because at the end of the day, those details about the economy are still quite optimistic. And what is even more important, that it is the first time that the states, also, although those who are recognized as the very liberal one, when the state is rather occurred as a passive one, which is providing only the physical security for the citizens, we're not asking the questions how much to spend, but only when and why we are doing that so slow. So I mean that also direct payment by the Trump administration to every single person. The same has been true about the Japan. Also the direct payment about $1,000 per capita has been paid to every single Japanese person account. So the same was true for the German economy. So it was a huge amount of money, public money, produced by the public debt, of course, to be pumped to the global economy in every single place in the world. But also, as I mentioned, it was true in Poland. It is worth to tell you that it was March the 11th last year when we first time locked down the society, and the first payment to the companies has been delivered since the 1st of April. So we were able to prepare the special regulatory framework. We were able to reshuffle the institutions responsible for the social insurances to pay them directly in April. And we were also at the end of April, the first week of May, we were able to offer the support for small and medium-sized companies only for the short application form, which you could be delivered via banks. And the money that company has applied for, and they could do it if their income has dropped by 70%, comparing month to month, or month from this year to month from the former year. And those support came to the company's account after 48 hours. So it was something unprecedented in a Polish administration framework, that it was able to deliver, not only to elaborate the legislation, it was me who was responsible for, but also to be able to prepare the special tools, the digital ones, and the manual as well for those who are not digital enough, to collaborate with banks, so with the private sector, and to be able to pump those money really very, very quickly. And the last point, which is only just to sum up the amount of money which has been estimated to whole world. So the short-term account, if you think about the whole world, it is 1.7 billion US dollars. It means that it includes also the amount for psychological troubles caused by COVID-19, which is estimated by 407 billion US dollars. Unemployment estimated on 1.3 billion. Long-term costs which we observed for the education, is also estimated as the one of the growing amount. We also having some details that probably your generation actually will be affected by the lower income for the whole period of your employment. That might occur in a rate like 6.2 lower wages than it could be if COVID couldn't happen. So this is definitely not very optimistic data, but still we are going to talk about recovery. So as I mentioned before, I bring those data just to present you the whole picture, that the social, the economy, and this global perspective, what we did and what else should be done. Of course, the central goal for policymakers and decision makers is to look, not only to look back, it is for the historian and academics, we should definitely look forward and look into the future. And definitely what I mentioned many times, that we are living in times when the classical paradigm of economy and of the modern democracy is definitely in the making, right? It's changing. And that is why it is very important to be fully aware of in which direction we are going. If we are talking about Poland, what is also important, so on the one hand, this liberal paradigm is changing in terms of economy, but also we are having a strong, huge discussion, let's say the cultural one. It has been quoted, let me quote one intellectual, young intellectual, that present his very interesting article at the end of 2020, about the end of Christian imagination that we are facing in Poland. It is also important, especially if you talk about the economy. The economy is in fact a social science, so it is also important how we perceive ourselves and what are the central goals of us. So on the one hand, we are having those social and the cultural changes. On the other one, we are facing with the crisis of globalization, I would say. So definitely we see that the strong bracket has been pushed on this globalization process. And the third point, we observed yesterday and 2 days before discussion between the United States and China. So another economic clash of civilization is coming even faster than we think at the beginning of COVID crisis. So definitely, if I ask myself what is the path of the economy recovery, the path is going through transformation. It is very easy to say in the country as mine, when we started our huge transformation, the political and the economy, 30 years ago, and we are still in transition period, I would say. So it is very easy to say that we need nowadays also go through transition. And I think that my goal should be bounce forward. So not to come back to what has been before COVID, but rather a fast run forward. And we should definitely try to recover in a very autonomous and very independent way, because definitely the Polish path, the Hungarian path is going to be completely different than the German or France, because of the economy structure is completely, absolutely different, right? We are not hanging on one huge branch. We are not exporting. We did not export our production lines to the China or India. So in fact, the Polish economy during last year did not stop. Even we had a lockdown, and a single branch did not stop the production. The furniture, automotive sector, every single has really still had a production. Even what we observed that among those dates, which I'm quoting many times, is also the rapid growth of export in 2020. So the whole world has been closed, and the Polish export has grown. So that is why this independent path is the answer for Poland, definitely. And of course, I was blamed many times for what I said at the beginning of the crisis in Poland, that definitely Poland should use this crisis as the opportunity. And this is also, it has been come back to me by journalists, many journalists bring it back to me during last months. But I still maintaining this quotation that this is definitely the opportunity. And I very carefully, but say that we really use this opportunity. We changed completely some institutions, like the insurance company, like the labor offices. They did what normally they would done through decade. So they did it in a 2 or 3 months. So we see that the small and medium-sized company were able to adjust to those tough situations, were able to find a different path of communication with the market, were able to deliver their services and goods to the market, to the Polish one, but also to export. So very carefully, but I would say that we really use this as the opportunity. Although, of course, the situation is not clear enough, we still are facing with COVID. What is very important for us, because we have to combat not only with COVID-19, but also what is the huge challenge for the Polish economy and the Polish society for the next coming decades is the energy transformation. As you know, we as a part of the European members of the European Union, we are obliged to the EU ETS system. As far as I understand, Great Britain, although is not going to be any longer part of the European Union, is now accepting your own kind of EU ETS system, which is going to come to market in mid-April, as far as I remember. So this change is happening with the European Union or without. So this is very difficult situation, because Polish energy system is based in 84% on coal, and so this transformation is the toughest one among European member state countries. But still, for me, it is opportunity, because definitely we need to invest in the Polish energy system, because the one we are having is a really old-fashioned and is not working properly. And even if not EU ETS and with not greening the energy system, we need to invest in the system in those coming years. So I feel that it might be the opportunity. Closing eyes, telling no, is like I would compare to the Kodak strategy, which invent at the beginning of 21st century digital photography, and decide not to develop that technology because they badly estimate the process of development of the development this technology. And who today knows what the Kodak is? You can learn it only from the economy history, and this might happen if Poland did not decide to invest in green energy system. We would lost everything. So that is why we need to but as I mentioned at the beginning, the process is very tough and very expensive, also expensive from the social side. But still, I expect that this development is going to be so huge, and we can provide and we can develop some local technologies on that. We can definitely make on this economy transition kind of a new deal for Poland. So this is also, from my perspective, a good answer for the recovery, the post-COVID recovery plan. So just to conclude, the first point is to estimate which institutions failed, which performed good. The second point is to have and to understand that the proper plan for recovery should be tailor-made for every single European member state country. Although we should put the central goal where Europe wants to be in the next coming years, definitely the way how to achieve this goal should be tailored more individually. And the third point is how to discuss the COVID situation. From my perspective, we should definitely start to treat it as the chance, as the opportunity, and since the society and the market also was waiting for the state initiative during last months, this is also the call for the governments to maintain those actions also in the recovery plan. So thank you very much. This is all what I would like to make to say. It was too long, I think, but this is what I would like to share. And of course, I'm open for your questions, remarks, and also if you don't agree with what I said, I'm also open.